James Carr Professor of International Criminal Law at Washington University School of Law. I'm a fellow at Yale Law School, attached to the Shell Center of Human Rights, and I'm the special advisor on crimes against humanity to the International Criminal Court prosecutor. Crimes against humanity are some of the worst international crimes. They are widespread or systematic attacks on civilian populations. They differ from war crimes in that they can take place outside the context of armed conflict. That is, they can take place in peacetime or in wartime, and they can be committed by state actors or by non-state actors. That is, they can be committed by governments or by private entities or organized armed groups. They differ from genocide because they're broader and more extensive. Genocide is a narrow subcategory of crimes against humanity that involves attacks on individuals based upon their race, religion, nationality, or their ethnic origin. We have over 325 criminal conventions in the world, and they cover everything from cutting submarine cables to genocide. The fact that we don't have a Crimes Against Humanity convention is shocking. It is an absolute hole in the infrastructure that protects all of humanity from criminal activity. Crimes Against Humanity were first prosecuted at Nuremberg in 1945. It has been more than 75 years since the Nuremberg prosecutions. And while we have a definition of crimes against humanity in the International Criminal Court statute that was adopted in 1998, we never got a universal, multilateral, interstate treaty on this subject. So you could say, why does that matter? We have the ICC. The reason it matters is that the International Criminal Court only takes a very small number of cases in a small subset of situations within its jurisdiction. And that leaves the vast majority of crimes against humanity in the world completely outside the realm of prosecution and punishment. We need states to have a treaty that links them together. And what's particularly important to note is that a new treaty will focus very heavily on the obligation of states not only not to commit crimes against humanity, but to prevent their commission. And we know that an ounce of prevention is much better than a pound of cure. So one of the really important developments in international law has been the development not just of international criminal law, that is imposing punishment on individuals that commit crimes, but the development of human rights law. And one of the things we know from human rights law is that survivors and victims have a right not only to see that justice is done, that is, that the accused is brought to justice, that there be accountability for the crimes, but that they receive reparations, and that to the extent it's an entity committing the crimes, that they can receive guarantees of non-repetition. And those elements are already in the draft treaty that was developed by the International Law Commission. They can be made even stronger. So I think victims and survivors will feel empowered by the adoption of a new treaty that names the harm that they are enduring, and that also guarantees them a future right to be free from that harm. So in 2008, a group of individuals that I had the honor to direct came up with the idea of a new model draft treaty on crimes against humanity. And this draft was published in 2010. In 2013, the International Law Commission took up this idea. That's an expert body of the United Nations that is responsible for the codification and progressive development of international law. And the International Law Commission worked for 6 years, from 2013 to 2019, to develop a draft in conjunction with civil society and states. After 2019, the ball was really in states' courts. And so we thought that since the Commission's draft had received substantial and even overwhelming support, a lot of enthusiasm for this work, we thought it would move forward. And unfortunately, for about 3 years, in part due to the pandemic, but in part due to the obstruction of some governments, the treaty stagnated. We had a perfectly useful draft. The Commission had recommended it be sent to a diplomatic conference or be adopted by the General Assembly itself, and it sat for 3 years. And in a very exciting and positive development in 2022, a coalition of states led by Mexico and the Gambia got a resolution that provided for a 2-year timeline during which states could discuss the provisions of the draft that we now have, and then take a decision on them in October of 2024.